A priest at the Vatican Observatory finds out that a comet is going to hit Earth soon. Right away, he looks through a lot of books to confirm his suspicions and tells his boss, who calls the council together to talk about the problem. It turns out that the Bible has a prophecy about it, explaining the doomsday signs, which are disasters that happen every time an angel blows his horn. 5 of the 7 angels have already blown their trumpets, which has led to wars and other bad things. Coming comets and tsunamis are the 6th number of evil, which means that if the comet hits Earth, Antichrist will be set free. In the meantime, Robert, a diplomat, goes to Rome to meet with the Pope. He is going to the hospital because his wife Kate is going to give birth. But Father Spoleto has bad news. Kate had a miscarriage, which meant the baby died. Her womb is now so damaged that she will never be able to have children. Again, thank goodness Spoleto has a solution. A mother died while giving birth at the same time Kate did. They could just trade babies and keep it a secret since Kate doesn't know about her child yet. Robert agrees to the secret and takes the baby to see Kate, telling her that they are their own flesh and blood. As the years go by, the baby turns into a happy, healthy kid named Damian. Because of health problems in the UK, the ambassador family will soon have to leave Italy. The ambassador gets stuck in traffic on the way to a meeting. At that very moment, a wheel stopper, which makes a tank truck roll down the street, hits with the ambassador's car, and it spills petrol all over it at the same time. A man also drops a cigarette, causing an explosion. After this, Robert is chosen to be the new ambassador, and he moves to London with his family and is given a big, fancy house. 2 years later, Kate is at the park with Damian when her phone rings. She picks up the phone, but no one answers. She looks away and is worried to find that Damian has left. Luckily, soon, she finds him hiding behind a tree and tells him off for making her scared. Later, there is a party and event for Damian's 5th birthday, and reporter Keith shows up to cover it. The nanny is helping around when suddenly she notices a black dog sitting nearby and something in her changes. She immediately climbs to the roof of the house and announces she's doing this for Damian before using a rope to self-delete. Everyone starts panicking, and Keith takes pictures of the incident, while Robert rushes to pick up Damian, wanting to protect him from the sight. Damian doesn't seem bothered and even waves at the dog. The story quickly makes the news, and reporters are there start following Robert around, but he won't say anything about it. He tries to stay away from them. He hits Keith by accident and breaks his camera, but he says he'll get him a new one. After that, Father Brennan visits Robert to tell him that Damian is the Antichrist and that he had been there the night Damian was born and knew that his real mother had been a jackal. Because Robert thinks the man is crazy, he has security take him away as Brennan leaves the building. Keith sees him and takes more pictures. Later, when Robert and Kate get home, they talk to Mrs. Baylock, and she has a lot of experience, so they hire her as their new nanny. When Baylock meets Damian, she tells him she's there to keep him safe. Keith works on the pictures he took in the meantime and sees a strange line above Brennan's head that's in all of his pictures. The next day, they have to go to the funeral of the last nanny, so Kate asks Baylock to bring Damian. Damian isn't feeling well, so Baylock says he shouldn't go, but Kate doesn't believe him. Damian has no choice but to get in the car. On the way to church, Damian starts to look sick as he looks around and sees the crucifixes on the buildings. He goes crazy, attacks his mom, and Kate gets hurt in the process. Robert can hold the boy down and tell the driver to take them back home. Robert takes care of Kate's wound while she walks around. Damian got sick out of the blue after never being sick in his whole life. That can't be right. Kate then takes a bath and worries when her wrist starts to bleed. Damian is standing in front of the tub with a mask on. Kate wakes up and realizes it was all a dream. Robert comes home to find his son being growled at by a dog. Baylock rushes in and calms the dog down and said she and Damian had found it roaming in the garden. Damian liked it so much that he decided to adopt it. Robert is angry and tells her he gets to decide when a pet comes home and told to get rid of the dog by Baylock. The next day, Kate and the other moms go to the zoo with Damian's class. Damian chooses to watch the monkeys, which makes him look scary. Kate sees this and tries to take him away, but Damian resists. As they look at them, a gorilla starts hitting the glass as if it wants to get their attention. Everyone runs away in fear as the animals start to roar when they get home. Kate finally breaks down and tells Robert. Damian seems strange to her. She also decides she needs therapy. That night, she is brushing her teeth before going to bed when a monster steps out of the mirror and scares her. Not a good dream. When she goes downstairs, Damian is making a sandwich in the kitchen, but he doesn't answer any of her questions. He just goes to his room. Keith goes on to look at the pictures again and find more strange light marks. Later, Robert is at a church event when Brennan comes up to him and says Kate is in danger and gives him a time and place to meet. He also says it will be the last time they see each other before Buchanan leaves. Brennan thinks the storm is crazy and leaves. Later, the storm gets worse, and Brennan starts to hear strange sounds. He quickly runs to the closest church because of the noise. The front gate is locked, so he has to climb over it. But when he gets to the door, it's also locked. As he bangs on it, hoping for help, a pole comes through it from the roof, breaks off all of a sudden, and falls on Brennan, killing him instantly. Robert is shocked when Kate tells him she's pregnant and wants to get rid of it because she doesn't want to have another child like Damian. The next day, the news tells Robert that Brennan has died. He then goes to see Kate's therapist, who says Kate is crazy when she thinks her son is bad and not really hers. At the same time, Baylock gives Damian a good look, and Damian decides to ride his scooter. While Kate is sitting in a chair and watering the plants, Damian rides up behind her and swings her off the balcony. Kate manages to hold on until the very end. She asks Damian for help, though. The child does not react and only watches as her mother falls to the ground. Soon after, Robert takes Kate to the hospital and finds out that she lived but lost her baby. Kate begs him not to let Damian kill her. When Robert gets home, he finds the dog still there, but before he can throw it out, Keith calls and tells him it's important for them to act quickly. Robert goes to Keith's studio to meet him and is shocked to see that the pictures Keith took of Brennan and the nanny both have a white light that shows them how they are going to die. Keith also has one. Afterwards, Keith leads Robert to Brennan's secret hideout below, where they discover all the walls are gone, crucifixes and Bible pages all over them. Keith has already looked through Brennan's things and found out he was crazy, about to commit that hit, on June 10, 2012, the same day that Damian was born. While he was taking pictures of the room, Keith showed up in a mirror, and the picture of him showed a white light around his neck. So he's afraid he might die soon. Robert agrees to look into Damian's real background and goes to Rome with Keith to talk to the hospital staff who were there when Damian was born. They are shocked to find that the hospital burned down after Robert's family left, but they find a nun who lived through the fire and now has clear burns. The nun tells them that they need to find Spoleto. On their way to another church, Keith shares the Bible passage that talks about the birth of the Antichrist during lunch. Someone who sees it as a metaphor for politics and believes that the devil's child wants to rule over people. Because of his position, Robert was picked on purpose. In the end, they cross a lake and meet Spoleto at a church in the country. Whose burned face looks funny? He can't talk or walk. He writes the name of an old cemetery north of Rome next to Damian's real mother. When Keith and his friend go to the cemetery, they find that the gate is locked. To get in, they have to climb over it. They looked around the graves and found two that belonged to a mother and child and had the right dates on them. They open the mother's first and find the skeleton of a jackal. Next, they dig up the child's grave. Robert is heartbroken to see that the baby's head has a hole in it. This means that his child was killed on purpose to set everything up. Suddenly, two dogs appear out of nowhere and attack them. In a fight, Robert hits one dog with a tool and then hits another one with a grave crucifix. Soon, the dogs came after them again, so the men jumped over a fence to get away. Baylock and Damian try to visit Kate in the hospital, but the nurse tries to tell them not to. Even though it's against the rules, Baylock talks her into letting her change the flowers, while Damian stays in the hallway and stares at the guard, who is getting more and more angry. Baylock goes inside. Every second in the room, Baylock puts his hand over Kate's mouth so she can't cry out for help, puts a bubble of air into Kate's IV line. Soon, Kate starts to have an air embolism. When Kate's attack sets off the alarm, Baylock turns off the machine. After a few seconds of Kate goes into pain and dies. Baylock then leaves with Damian as if nothing happened. Later, at the hotel, a call comes in telling Robert that Kate has died. That night, he has a terrible dream about that Damian was looking at him with evil eyes, a monster in a red hood, and a priest throwing off his stillborn child. When Keith checks on him, Robert tells him that he knows Damian is bad and wants to kill him. They go all the way to Israel to find Bugenhagen, who is the only man who can help them get back at his wife and is skilled in killing the Antichrist. Bugenhagen gives them a unique set of knives to use against Damian and teaches them the prayer that needs to be said during the ritual. He also tells them that Baylock is an angel of hell and that Damian should have a birthmark. But Robert gets sick at the thought of killing his own son and runs away. Desperate to stay alive, Keith grabs the knives and decided to kill Damian, but as he walks away, a sign falls from a building and kills him right away. After this, Robert has no choice but to accept the truth. He takes the knives home with him. Robert grabs a pair of scissors and makes a plan. Just then, a storm hits, a door to close, which wakes up the dog, which starts chasing after Robert right away. He runs as fast as he can until he gets to a hatch. He then tricks the dog into falling in so he can lock it. Next, Robert goes upstairs and cuts Damian's hair while he sleeps to finally find the birthmark. Suddenly, Baylock attacks him, and the two of them fight until Robert hit her against the wall to knock her out. Then he picks up Damian screaming. When they get to the car, Baylock breaks the windscreen and tries to get inside to block the road, but Robert hits her with the car and keeps going at a crazy fast speed. Some police to start following him. Robert finally finds a church and takes Damian inside. As he says the right prayer, he holds the boy at the altar and gets ready to stab him. Right then, Damian begs his dad, "Please don't," and Robert hesitates, giving the police time to get there and shoot him. Later, the Pope dies in his room, and a funeral is held for Robert at the same time. The President of the United States holds Damian's hand while the boy smiles in a devilishly funny way.